What's up, Packer fans? I'm Untitled Chapter, host of Another Packer podcast. Thank you for being here. Thank you for checking out this video. And boy, it feels like it's been a long time since we've watched a Packer game. I think if there is a downside to having a kickoff on Thursday Night Football is that you have to wait, 4, 5, 6 years, it feels like, since we've watched the Packers play. A lot of cliffhangers. Is that defense good? Is that offense going to bounce back? I'm here to discuss it. I'm here to break it all down. The Packers face off against the Vikings on Sunday, and it is time to pour ourselves another Packers podcast. So real quick before we get started, if you haven't liked or subscribed or hit that bell notification, please do so. I want to get this damn thing out of my basement. 1,000 subscribers, it's going to one of you. So go ahead, subscribe down below, like the video, and hit that bell because on Sunday, I'll talk about this at the end of the video, but on Sunday, I'm going to go live. We're going to have a little Q&A session. And if you just want to talk to me or if you want to talk with other Packer fans, and we're going to break down the hopefully a Packers victory. But let's get started, right? I love getting started with these sorts of things. So Sunday will be the 117th meeting between the Green Bay Packers and the Minnesota Vikings, with the rivalry going all the way back to 1961. The Packers do lead the series, a whopping 60 wins to 54 losses and 3 ties. Although, since 2015, the Packers are just 2-5-1 against the Vikings. So they have had the better advantage over Green Bay the last couple of years, and I think there's a little bit that has to do with this. I mean, in 17, Rodgers goes out with that broken collarbone. Last year, they just couldn't get their offense going. I'm not making excuses, but I think we can't really go against this recent trend of the Vikings getting the edge over us. I do think this is going to be one hell of a matchup. But let's just see how this pans out. Maybe we'll start from Sunday, and 4 years from now we can talk about how it's just been a romping of the Vikings. At least one could hope so. Both of these teams, of course, played in week 2 of last season as well. Ended in a 29-29 tie, and I don't think either team, I know Packer fans, I know Viking fans, nobody came away from that game feeling good about it. Green Bay entered the fourth quarter with a 20-7 lead, and then Minnesota missed the game-winning field goal in overtime, which would have won it. That was really the only silver lining to that game, as if you're a Packer fan, because you just figured the Vikings would go on to win it. But both teams come into week 2 of the 2019 season 1-0. So Vikings, of course, beat Atlanta 28-12, and the Packers kind of survived or dominated, or however you want to look at it. They came away with a 10-3 victory over Chicago. The winner will be in sole possession of first place in the NFC North. Again, the best the Bears can do is 1-1. The best Detroit can do is 1-0-1. And the Packers or the Vikings will exit that game 2-0. And we'll have a huge overreaction on Monday about whether the Vikings will be the team to beat or the Packers will be the team to beat. But it's early on in the season. There's a lot of football to be played. Let's just go out there. Let's just play football. I want to watch another game. I watched the Panthers in Tampa Bay tonight, and for the most part, I was just bored out of my mind until the last, 7 seconds when Christian McCaffrey, it was like 2 minutes left. Christian McCaffrey just blew it. They pulled the old, I don't know, just give it to Cam. Just give the ball to Cam and run up the middle. It's easy. Get a first down, win the game, Carolina. You're better than that. Unlike the Bears from last week, I do think, and this is a hot take, I think is what the internet likes to call us. I do think these teams, the Vikings and the Packers, I think they have a little bit more respect for one another, right? We look at that Bears rivalry last week. I don't think those teams like each other whatsoever, but I do think that there is some respect between the Packers and the Vikings. When Thielen signed his 4-year contract extension back in April, it was Rodgers himself that reached out to Thielen, and Thielen goes on to say he was one of the first to congratulate me and send me a text. So it's pretty cool to have a guy like that that's a rival, but he's been good to me and shows me respect, and I think that's awesome. I don't hate the Vikings, at least currently. As of right now, I don't hate the Vikings. On Monday, I could possibly hate the Vikings quite a bit, That being said, the rivalry has not always been harps and vaginas. It just quite frankly hasn't. Numerous Packers players transitioned to the Minnesota Vikings throughout the years. You look at Darren Sharper, you look at Ryan Longwell. Of course, more recently, we look at that whole Brett Favre guy that found his way on the Minnesota Vikings. And then more recently than that, Anthony Barr is the gentleman who broke Aaron Rodgers' collarbone in the 2017 season, essentially just putting the nail in the coffin, and it broke an 8-year consecutive streak that the Packers had of making the playoffs. So ever since that moment, you know, I don't know what to think. I mean, I think about that Anthony Barr hit now, and I do think I really don't like the Vikings all that much, but I still hate the Bears more, and I'm so glad that we won last Thursday. A couple interesting stats heading into our Week 2 matchup. The Packers are 6-0 in their last 6 home openers. The Vikings are 6-0 in their last... Oh, wait, hold on. The Vikings are 6-0 last... The Vikings are 6-0 since the start of last season when they rushed for at least 100 yards, so we're going to have to make sure we kind of tone down that rush game a little bit. Rodgers has a 110 passer rating against the Vikings, and that is the highest among any quarterback against the Vikings in the Super Bowl era. Vikings and Packers tie for the second youngest roster in the entire NFC, so these are going to be fun teams. This will be, like I said, maybe this is a start of a more passionate rivalry between these teams as these players start to develop and kind of grow into their own. And then, of course, $1 Million Man, or $90 million man, or 89, whatever they paid him, 86 point something $1 million man. And Kirk Cousins' record against winning teams is 4-25, so I don't think that bodes too well. The Packers are technically a winning team. They're 1-0, so that little stat kind of bodes in our favor. So let's talk about some game headlines as we approach our Week 2 matchup. Unfamiliarity between these two teams is something that I have pointed out very early on. So since Mike Zimmer became the head coach in 2014, he's had a game plan against Mike McCarthy, and now Matt LaFleur enters the fold. And there's not a whole lot that Zimmer really has for footage when it comes to game planning against LaFleur and that offense. So, of course, they didn't really perform all that well on Thursday night against the Bears, and the defense of the Bears might give them a good roadmap of how to stop them. But I think there's a lot of unfamiliarity that Mike Zimmer has with this offense and how he wants to go about stopping them. I think there's going to be more play action. I think there's going to be a lot of different looks that we see on Sunday. And the Packers just didn't put a whole lot of film out there for them to look at. On the other hand, the Vikings offense also did not put a whole lot of film out there for the Packers defense to look at. They went up really early on Atlanta, and then they ended up pretty much running the game the entire second half against Atlanta. So Kirk Cousins only threw 10 total passes throughout the game. He only threw 3 passes the entire second half. So there's not a lot of pass play footage for the Packers to study and kind of scheme against, or how they want to cover Stephon Diggs or Adam Thielen. But I think that adds a really interesting dichotomy. It's very similar to what we saw last week with the Bears, that we just didn't know what we were going to get. But the Packers played a lot of defensive back heavy personnel against Mitch Trubisky. He's more of a dual threat where he can throw and he can run. I think Kirk Cousins himself is more of a pocket passer. So they're not really sure what the Packers are going to bring out there on the defensive side. Like I said, they played 7 defensive backs throughout the entire game, with the lone linebacker as Blake Martinez. So it'll be fun. It'll be fun to see how. I don't know how it's going to pan out. I think I went into that Bears game with some high expectations of a 31-17 blowout, but and I do think the offenses are going to be much more improved week over week, at least on the Packers side. But I would not be surprised if I put my foot in my mouth and this does turn into another defensive battle, a low-scoring game, and hopefully another Packers victory. Speaking of defense, is this defense for real? That is one of my headlines heading into Week 2. Too much conversation took place on Friday about whether or not the 3 points that the Bears managed to come up with in Week 1 had to do with the Packers defense, or if it had to do with the Bears' horrible offense or Mitch Trubisky or whoever you want to blame it on. But I want to come away knowing, after Week 2, is this defense exactly what I hope it is? I need to know this. And even if it's a close game and it's a loss, or if it's a low-scoring game and it's a loss, and we hold this team, we hold the Vikings to a low score, I just want to know that this defense is for real. so I can officially just keep talking about it, because I love to talk about it on this podcast. But Darnell Savage had a great first game in the NFL. Alexander showed glimpses of what you want to see for that sophomore leap that takes place in the NFL. Tramon Williams showed that he still has gas in the tank. He had that beautiful push out of bounds of Allen Robinson from that deep throw from Mitch Trubisky. So I thought, there were some pundits in some of my comments on previous videos that Williams is washed up. I think that he does still play an active role on this defense. Both Za'Darius and Preston Smith continuously made impacts throughout the game. Both of them combined for 16 quarterback pressures, and 10 of those came from Za'Darius Smith, who leads the NFL. Kenny Clark was stuffing the run. Martinez was making tackles. Amos had that interception. And then Kevin King. All you got to do is stay healthy. That's all you got to do. You stay healthy, and I think Kevin King is the X factor on this Packers defense. If he can stay healthy and he can, display what he is capable of, he will make the difference. He's the make it or break it when it comes to this Packers defense. He did end up playing 42 snaps when he was only supposed to play 15 to 20 snaps. So they wanted to get him out there. He wanted to be out there. He wanted to participate. And should he come back on Sunday stronger and play even more snaps? He played, I think, 58% of the total snaps against the Bears. I think that's going to make a huge difference. I think that's going to make an extremely huge difference, and something that I will be watching. Part of the headlines, is this defense for real? And furthermore, will Rashan Gary... Do you remember that guy? Will he play more? Now, if you are like me, at some point throughout last Thursday's game, or the previous Thursday, or the Bear game, however we want to, whenever you're watching this and whenever you want to remember back to when the game was, at some point throughout that game, you had to have been asking yourself, have I heard Rashan Gary's name called once? Well, you might have maybe once or twice, but the fact of the matter is, he only played a total of 6 snaps, or if you're more of a percentage guy, he played 8% of the defensive snaps for the Packers D, and I'm not really sure how to take that. He was the 12th overall pick in last year's draft, and he just didn't get a whole lot of playing time for the Packers. Now, I don't know, and this is where it's a whole different philosophy with the Packers and how they like to keep their players healthy and fresh and all that good stuff. So I don't know if it was an intentional scheme that the defense had, that Mike Pettin had for that defense, just let him kind of ease his way into the regular season, or if it's a cautious approach so they can keep him rested and healthy. The NFL is a much longer and grueling process than college football, so I'm not sure if they're just kind of saving what's in the tank. Quite frankly, they don't need him to go out there and play 50% of the snaps, 75% of the snaps, 100% of the snaps. They don't need that out of Rashan Gary, because they have plenty of defensive rush from their Smiths, from Kenny Clark, from Martinez. You even saw Adrian Amos running through that offensive line. So, but I'm curious. I want to know, will he play a bigger role in Sunday's game? Will we actually get to see him laying on top of Kirk Cousins for a sack? Don't get dirty on me. I just want to know if he's going to be. Sacking Kirk Cousins. So tell me what you think. Comment down below. Do you think Rashan Gary will play more of an active role? And if you are of the mindset that he is not anything that that some of these football guys like myself believe he is cracked up to be, then don't comment, because I don't want to ignore your comment down in the comment section. So let's move on to the keys to victory. So just like last week, I have three keys to victory heading into Sunday's matchup against the Vikings. My first one is kind of an easy one. So fast start and an early lead. So if the media wasn't talking about how great our defense looked last week, they were obviously talking about how bad our offense performed. So Lambeau Field will be rocking again. Like I said, it's the first home game of the year. The Packers have gone 6-0 in their last 6 home games to start the season, and nothing will take the air out of Lambeau Field more than if the Packers just can't get the ball moving down the field, or if Minnesota comes away with turnovers, or if Minnesota gets out to an early lead and we're playing catch up. So Green Bay had a couple extra days to review the film. Having that Thursday night game afforded them some time to study, to get back in the swing of things and make corrections to their offense. And Rodgers, on an interview, I think it was Tuesday perhaps, Rodgers thinks that they're close. So he went on to say, We went into a tough environment Thursday night and struggled to get a first down. We had a good practice Monday and Tuesday. At times watching the film, it gave us some confidence that we weren't that far off. With Chicago stuff in the run, I made a couple bad throws, but we're close to putting some points on the board. He goes on to say that, close won't win you games in the NFL, but on Thursday against the Bears, close did win them a game, and I think that they are close too. I think especially in the second half, I think the Packers completed some good passes throughout the second half. They obviously were able to get down and score another field goal to make it a 7-point game, and I think they're close. It just helps. I think it helps Rodgers to have some game time action. I think it helps to have some film against a really good defense to go back and make adjustments to. Quite frankly, Minnesota was able to get off to an extremely fast start in their week 1 matchup against the Falcons. They went ahead very early. And like I said, because they went ahead early, they were able just to ground and pound Atlanta the entire second half. And that really makes it hard for a team that's trying to bounce back or come back to get back into the game, because the running game is just going to continue to tick time off that clock. So if the Packers can swing that possession or swing that mentality in their favor in their home opener, I find that as my number 1 key to victory. And keep in mind, the Packers were 5-2-1 last year at home, and they need to use that home field advantage. So if Green Bay can come out fast and get out to an early lead, it will naturally force the Vikings to abandon the running game, and that is a big concern that Green Bay needs to have heading into the game. I think Dalvin Cook is one hell of a really good running back, who has obviously suffered some injuries the last couple of years, but if he stays healthy, that running game is something you need to worry about. So get out to a fast lead, put Vikings down in the hole 14-0, 17-0 would be ideal. And they're going to have to abandon that running game, and you're going to have to, worry about the pass at that point. It will allow Green Bay to run the ball more. I think I mentioned that before. If not, call more play action, because if you have that lead, you can really mess with the defense at that point, because they think you're going to run it, but you can just go ahead and just keep throwing points up on the board. It'll keep the home crowd energized, and the last thing, it will take a lot of pressure off that defense. And I think if there's anything that will, really motivate that defense to be more aggressive and go after the quarterback, I think a big lead will definitely help that. And we'll also give Mike Pettin some opportunity to try out some different plays and some different schemes if the Packers can get off to a fast start and put some points on the board. Second key to victory. So we're talking about offense. We got to talk about find ways to keep the third downs manageable. So Green Bay went 2 for 12 on third downs against the Bears, 3 of 13 if you count a penalty for illegal contact, but apparently that just null and voids that play. So the Packers officially went 2 for 13 of those, or excuse me, 2 for 12 of those 12 third down plays. 6 of those third down plays were more than 10 yards, and 11 of those plays were more than 5 yards. So the Packers really need to figure out how to get some more yards early on in their downs, right? So last year, the Packers led the league in generating more yards than needed on third down. So what that means is when it's 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, the Packers would then throw a 25-yard bomb, and they would have those home run plays. However, they ranked 22nd in the league last year for third down percentage. So it was either an entire make it or break it on third down. 36.76% of the time they converted on third down, and that's just not good enough to cut it. And after week 1, they ranked second to last in third down percentage. So this is obviously a talking point that Matt LaFleur had throughout the week. This is an acknowledgement from Aaron Rodgers and the rest of the offense that they know they need to get better on third down. They can't put themselves in those types of situations. If they want to succeed against Minnesota, they got to find a way to keep it third or short, or even better, don't even get to third down. First and second down, treat those as your only 2 downs. Pick up first downs from there. And if I don't see, I saw plenty of J.K. Scott against the Bears. If I don't see J.K. Scott more than twice, I'm going to be a very happy person. Of course, the other side of that would be their turnover the ball, and that would be far worse. So let's not even go down that avenue. So how do you suggest the Packers go about getting better field position on their first and second downs? Well, my solutions are more play action calling. So Matt LaFleur's entire offense is predicated on the run game, but I think if the defense and the rest of the NFL already knows that, run some more play actions very early on, catch the defense off guard, and throw for 6, 7, 8-yard passes and get those chains moving. I think that is one of the solutions. The second solution solutions is, quite frankly, Rodgers needs to play better. He was missing throws. He was looking rusty. He was looking a little bit aged against the Bears. So he needs to make better throws. He needs to play better. And I think the third solution is going to be increased tempo. This was a huge deal as far as this, Sean McVay type of offense, is that their speed to playing offense, quite frankly. So if they can catch the Bears offside, run up to, far too often against the Bears, that play clock was running down to 0. There were a couple delay of games against the Packers, and that's not at all what we want to see out of this offense. They need to catch the defense offsides. They need to catch them with 12 men on the field. They need to figure that out, because when they catch them with 12 men on the field, which was confirmed, that touchdown to Jimmy Graham did have 12 men on the field. So in case you were losing sleep over that, I just eased some of your pressure. But increase the tempo, play better, Rodgers, call more play action, and they should be able to get that second key to victory figured out quite easily. And then last but not least, the third and probably the most important key to victory is to shut down Adam Thielen. So last week I talked about how you needed to slow down Khalil Mack to get yourself a victory. I think for the most part, the Packers did slow down Khalil Mack and had a lot of success with that. And I think it was the difference as far as, staying in the game and succeeding and getting a victory in Chicago. But the Vikings have a lot of weapons on their offense, and Adam Thielen in particular has consistently torched us throughout the last couple seasons. If you think back, I looked these up for you. Week 11, 2018, he had 8 receptions, 125 yards, and a touchdown. Week 2 of 2018, 12 receptions, 131 yards, and 1 touchdown. Week 6 of 2008, 9 receptions, 96 yards, no touchdowns that game. But week 16, the season prior, he had 12 receptions, 202 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So he has been the Achilles heel of the Green Bay Packers defense, and if they can find a way to shut him down, that will go a long way to a successful and another Packers W heading, in the 2019 season. So nearly 1/5 of Adam Thielen's receiving yards last year came against the Packers in just 2 games. He's their best receiver. Kirk Cousins has made it evidently clear that he is his favorite target. So shutting down him is going to be a huge key. Kevin King, Alexander, and Williams all need to step up. It was against the Vikings in week 2 last year, because I love to reminisce on that game. We kind of got to see that first glimpse of Alexander and the type of player that he could be in the NFL. As I mentioned before, he had a great start on Thursday against the Bears. And he had an outstanding game in that week 2 premiere against the Vikings. And it would have been a game-winning interception had Clay Matthews not been called for roughing the passer. And boy, am I glad they stopped calling those bullshit calls, because... So, if we can find a way to shut down Thielen, the Vikings will become one-dimensional. Yes, they have other targets on that offense, but none of them are as dynamic or scary as Adam Thielen. It will eliminate big-time plays and force Cousins out of his comfort zone. Quite frankly, if you take away his favorite target, he's going to have to get, creative with where he throws the ball. I don't think Kirk Cousins is worth the money. I don't say that just because he's a Viking. I say that when he was a Redskin. He's not all that special. I put him on the same playing field, quite frankly, as Mitch Trubisky and a Ben Roethlisberger, and I'm just listing off names of quarterbacks that probably shouldn't even be clumped together. So my game prediction heading in to the weekend, I see this game ending in a Packers victory. I'm a lot more confident about this one than I was last week, because we're at home. We've had a little bit more rest than the Vikings, but I see this being a 21-17 Green Bay victory. I think it will be a close game. I do think there will be some more points scored versus our week 1 showing. That's 3 touchdowns, and holding the Vikings to 2 touchdowns and a field goal is kind of where I have this at. And let me know what you think. Like I said, I think the Packers will have a successful start to this season. I think they will start 2-0. I don't think I will start shouting off of rooftops that we're going to be winning the Super Bowl anytime soon, because we still need to see a lot of improvement. The season's very early on. We got to stay healthy, and that is a huge thing that we benefited from in week 1, is that for the most part, all of our players came off the field, walked off the field, and it was healthy. So yeah, 21-17, that's my game prediction. And that's going to wrap up my final thoughts of the Green Bay Packers and the Minnesota Vikings in week 2. Real quick before I go, did you guys see that they changed the name of it used to be the Ray Rhodes Show, Mike Sherman Show, the Mike McCarthy Show, and apparently are they calling it Total Packers with Matt LaFleur? I'm okay if they are, but I had a tweet. I'm not going to dig it up and post it on this video, but I had a tweet way back in the interview process of it. Bring on the Matt LaFleur Show. And I'm kind of disappointed that they took all the fun out of that for me. I was gonna make a t-shirt and wear it. So anyway, that wraps up my final thoughts video. Thank you for checking it out. Subscribe down below if you like the content, or if you're a huge Packer fan, or if you'd like to win this pixelated Pour Another Packers canvas. You can subscribe, hit that bell button. I'll be doing a live Q&A after the game. I hope so many of you guys can join me. It's a lot of fun. The more people are there, the conversation really gets going. And until next time, go Pack Go, beat the Vikings, and I will see you on the internet. Thanks for watching.